All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order.
I was just lucky, there was a girl there.
Do we please have roll call?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Pancho Averill,
Here.
Richard Norton, Jose Gonzalez, Javier Martinez,
Present.
Louis LeVault,
Present.
Joey Tellez, Javier Compian,
Present.
David Montes,
Present.
Osvaldo Lara. For the record, we do have quorum.
All right. The next thing on the agenda says Pledge of Allegiance. We did not have that on our agenda before. So let's turn around and do the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance, to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item that we have on the agenda is to consider the approval of the minutes. These are minutes that date back from previous meetings, October 13th, March 9th, and was the meeting April 13th or April 14th? Because it shows 13th, but I think on the actual minutes themselves, I think it said 14th. Did I read
Minutes
that?
say April
April
13th.
13.
It's what?
The minutes say April 13th.
Okay, so, these were sent to each of the members here, and, and I'm assuming everybody read it. So I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion, a second to approve the minutes.
Yes, sir.
Any discussion? No discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, so really, this meeting was called not necessarily to hear an actual case,
No, sir.
but to do some cleanup work. So I'm gonna turn it over to Mr. Navarro, Planning Director, and he'll take care of it.
Yes, and Mr. Chairman, thank you for that. What we have here is a change in the process as far as voting. And our ordinance didn't match with the state law. So we had to make some changes. We have presented this to City Council. And it still needs to go back to City Council for a final, but, for approval. But we felt necessary to bring it here as a courtesy so that everybody can have their chance to give their opinion, and then at the end, we hope that we can get a recommendation so that we can take back to council that we did talk to the Board of Adjustments, that you are aware of the changes, and that hopefully we have a positive recommendation. This project was put together by Ms. Guerra, and I'd like to pass the mic to Ms. Guerra so she can go over the presentation.
Go for it.
Sure. If you can put up the presentation? He's got it up though, right? He can put it up?
Yes, it should be.
All right. There, he's coming. Just as a reminder, in front of you, you do have a hard copy of the presentation, but it also is going to be on this screen alone, okay? So moving forward, the purpose of this amendment is to align the Land Development Code, which is our local, ordinance, with the Texas Local Government Code, specifically sections 211.008D and 211.009C. Just a bit of background. On February 1st of last year, 2021, Council approved an ordinance number 2021-024 that increased the Board of Adjustment membership from 5 regular members and 4 alternates to 9 regular members and no alternates. So as a result of the increase in regular members, the rules governing the Board of Adjustment in section 24.1.3.1 of the Land Development Code now require a bit of updating so that we can be, once again, in compliance with state law. So, going on to the next slide, what I have tried to do is give you a quick way to compare the current Land Development Code, the state law, and the proposed amendment. And what's happening, as you'll see, under the current Land Development Code, and I've put on all the sections for you, for anybody who wants to look them up. Quorum is, defined as 5 BOA members, and the vote, what it states, is 3/4 of the members present, rounding up, are required to grant a variance or reverse an administrative order. So in this case, if you only have 5 members present, you could have as low as 4 members only necessary to grant a variance. So if you have 9 present, you know what I mean? If you had 5, you would only need 4. So, under state law, what quorum says is 75% of the members, period, of the members. Therefore, for a 9-member board, 7 members would be required, on a 9-member board. For vote, in order to reverse, an order or grant a variance, again, 75% of the board members concurring vote are required to grant that variance or reverse that order. Again, for a 9-member board, 7 would be required. So,
Not, excuse me, not 9 present.
Excuse me.
no, for 9,
I,
well, if 7 are present, 7 would be required.
Okay.
well, okay, that's where I have a problem.
Me too.
In other words, you've taken state law and said, we're gonna go higher than 75%, because if we have a quorum of 7, and you require 7, that's 100%.
Yes.
That's, but the members are 9.
But they're
That's
not
like a
voting.
quorum, yeah.
You can't have a count of voting members when
Okay,
members
okay,
aren't
hold on.
voting.
Can we-
That's the fallacy of your argument.
Well,
Okay, for example, let me go on.
Yeah, excuse me.
Can we finish
Let
just the
her-
Okay,
presentation?
go ahead. Go ahead.
So the proposed amendment would define quorum as 7 members, and the number of votes, of concurring votes needed to grant the variance and reverse an order is 7. What I've also done is done a quick comparison of 5 other cities in Texas and how they interpret this very same statute. And I made sure to put that, you'll see for the top row in Laredo, the existing ordinance, would have 9 regular members, no alternates. Quorum would be defined as 5, and the vote to grant a variance or reverse an order would be 75% of the members present. So the proposed would require would entail 9 members, 9 regular members, no alternates. Quorum is 7, and the vote requiring would be 7. We talked with El Paso, San Antonio, Austin, Corpus, and also Brownsville. And they all interpret it exactly the same. For El Paso, it's 9 members. They do have 9 alternates, because they do recognize that whole thing about if you don't have somebody coming. And then their quorum is 7, and the votes required is 7. San Antonio is 11, they have 6 alternates, 9 members for the quorum, and 9 members to vote. Austin is 11, 0 alternates, 9 for the quorum, and 9 to vote. Corpus was 5, with 2 alternates, 4 for the quorum, and 4 for the vote.
Brownsville?
Brownsville, this one, I had it, but it's not, let me see, it's not here.
Okay.
I think that this is an earlier version. So, just to give you an idea of how other cities are looking at this statute and how they implement it. So, all the other cities we checked, alternate members, all cities only allow alternate members to vote when serving in place of a regular member. Okay?
So they're always getting their quorum. They're always getting their full board.
So here is the draft ordinance. So it's a two-sentence revision. The quorum is formed by no less than 7 members. And then that middle sentence is being removed and replaced in its totality with that bottom sentence that's underlined. So the quorum shall act by motion in which not less than 7 concurring votes of the members are required to reverse an administrative decision or to grant a variance. And that is it.
We also spoke to the attorney from.
Yeah, we have spoken with our ex-previous city attorney, she was, Ms. Fur, president of the Texas Bar Association, I think. You know, we spoke with her, we spoke with Alan Bojorquez. So he gave us, again, the same, you know, interpretation that, you know, we checked with him, checked with Mr. Arredondo, and, his other colleague in his office as well.
With,
And Mr. Chairman, we did that because, you know, we thought Mr. LeVaux's comments were valid for us to do more research. So we went through this, because of the comments. We didn't have a quorum, but he had made some comments and we said, you know what, let's do that before we come back. Let's get some other cities, find out what they're doing, so.
all right, at this time, I'm gonna recognize Mr. LeBeau.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me ask you a couple questions.
Yes, sir.
So, when the council went to 9 members, we're just trying to follow up with the ordinance to get to the place where, you know, because of putting 9 regular members, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so let's talk about the, what is a quorum? Would you agree with me that we could have a quorum of 7?
Yes,
Okay, and what would be the required vote at that quorum of 7?
I think we put it in the presentation, it was
7.
7.
So 100%.
It would be 75% of the members, which
It
are
would be,
9.
but it would be 100% of the members who are present
Present.
and voting.
That's correct.
Or-
All the
Okay,
members
but
present.
Now, no.
I think it says,
May-
go ahead.
May I finish, Mr. Chair? Could we have a quorum of 8?
Yes,
Okay, so if we had a quorum of 8, what would be the required vote at that quorum?
75%. of
Wait,
9.
you said 7.
But you would, because you can have 7 to form a meeting, but in order to vote, you need 7 members of concurring votes.
Okay, that's where I disagree with you. The code doesn't say that. The state law says you need concurring votes of 75%.
Of the members.
Okay, and it can only be the members who are voting. It can't be the members who aren't present, because they're not voting. How can you count them if they're not voting?
That's exactly what happens,
Okay,
and that's what.
all right, well,
Richard
let's go back to my example. We have a quorum of 8. We can have them a quorum of 8, right?
Well, 7 is the quorum, yeah, you
Okay,
can have,
but we
you
can
can
have
have
a-
8 to 10, or 9
we-
to 10.
We can have a quorum of 8, correct?
Well, quorum when, 8 isn't necessary for a quorum.
How many can we have for a quorum? Can we have 7 for a quorum?
7, yes.
Can we have 8?
You can have 8 members attending, but 7 is a threshold to establish a quorum.
Okay, thank you. So 8 would be a quorum too. So if we had 8 members, that would be a valid meeting. We could conduct business.
Yes, you can conduct business.
What vote would we have to have at that meeting?
7.
7. So now you're saying we would have to have 87% of vote?
No, 75% of the members.
75% is 6.
Which is 9. 75% of
Of
9.
8, 75% of 8 is 6.
But it's-
Trust me on that one.
But it's the members, it's not the members present. The code doesn't say
Okay,
that.
I disagree with you again. It cannot be the members who aren't present at a vote. When the
Well,
statute
all-
said, excuse me, let me finish.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
When the statute says
Mhm.
the concurring vote, it can only be of those people that are voting. How can you have a count of people who don't vote? Now, your statute is right on, your proposed amendment. Let's go to your amendment, because your amendment's actually pretty close. Your amendment provides that, we're gonna go to 7 for, no less than 7 for a quorum, that's correct. That's correct if we have a 9-member board. And the last sentence, though, we should just leave at 3/4, because that's what the state law provides. If we have a quorum of 8, the affirmative vote of 6 would be the required vote, not 7. If we have a quorum of 9, all the members present, a vote of 7 would be required. That would be 75%. But to say that a quorum of 7 would require a greater vote, or a quorum of 8 would require a greater vote, is incorrect. That's where y'all are wrong. It's 2 things. What constitutes a quorum, number 1, and once you have that quorum, what constitutes a valid vote at that quorum?
That's correct.
Okay, you all are
Those are the
interpreting
2
it
issues
wrong.
that,
So,
under consideration.
my recommendation, Mr. Chair, is that we deny or we not recommend the amendment as written.
So just to throw out a question, Mr. Chairman, why do we have alternates specifically to the BOA?
Okay, well, here we don't. Here we don't. Now, other places, I believe, have them so that you have that full board, and then you can have those numbers, because you will never have less than the full board if you have alternates. In our case, all of us are regular members, but we may not have our full board. Okay, we may have 7, we may have 8, or we may have 9.
And that may be a recommendation also,
It
that
could
you all
be.
made.
It could
You
be.
know, to reinstate the alternate.
It could be.
You know, because
I don't-
exactly for this reason.
No opinion on that.
But
But if we're not going to have alternates, we need to leave it that we have a quorum at 7, or the first sentence, which is, the first sentence nobody disagrees with, which is Part D, which each case must be heard by at least 75% of the members. That puts us at 7. Okay, we don't need to change that line. And then the second line is the one about the concurring votes. The concurring vote of 75%. If we leave that as is also, we get a quorum of 7, we're required to get 6 votes there. If we have a quorum of 8, we get 6 votes there. If we have a quorum of 9, we get 7 votes there. You all are changing
Can
the
I
requirement for
respond
people.
to your comments?
You're
sir?
making it more difficult to chair.
It seems like
Mr.
it's very
Chairman, may I
difficult to get,
respond?
it's very difficult to get 100% of the people present in
But
the board.
that's the point of
That's
the
the alternates,
alternates.
yes.
And that's why most cities do have alternates.
And I wouldn't disagree with that, but if we don't have alternates, then the proposal that you all have, or the change that you all have, is incorrect.
May I respond?
Yes, go ahead, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, in front of you, you have a copy of the Texas Local Government Code. And on page 2 of that code, you'll see a highlighted section that discusses exactly the point that Mr. LeVaud talked about. And what it does say, to read it directly from the code, is that the concurring vote of 75% of the members of the board is necessary to, and then it tells you what you all can do. And I'll direct your attention to the section of the Land Development Code. If you look on the screen or on your presentation, it identifies that the Zoning Board of Adjustment is created consisting of 9 members. So 75% of the members. If you couple those two, it's that.
Again, you keep reading that to say that members who are not present should be counted at a vote.
That is what the
Okay,
state law
that is
says.
an impossibility.
Okay,
That
It
is
just
what the state
doesn't
law
work.
says. All I'm doing is reading to you.
Oh, you're
Chairman.
reading, you're forgetting the
Bring order,
first
please,
page.
order.
Mr. Chairman, okay, so like, I'm not an attorney, but but I do know what, the definition of a quorum is what makes the meeting valid. How many are required of the membership that are here? If it's 9, that we must have 7 based on this change that they're trying to make. But then for them, I do agree with what is being discussed here, to this extent that, now you're requiring a 75% of the body membership, without saying, well, we have a valid meeting with 7, and we should have 75% of those that constitute the quorum for that meeting to have to vote to approve. You don't put the threshold, we're creating a threshold that you're never gonna make.
Well, it could be made, but everybody would have to be here,
But like,
all the time.
Understanding, I agree with that too, but what I'm saying is, we're in a position here where we're not discussing alternates, we're just discussing these changes.
Right.
Okay, so based on those facts, I also have to concur, that this is, the Mr. LeVaud, what he's saying, and I also believe in the government code, that once you constitute a quorum, that the threshold that you're placing on that quorum for that meeting should be 75% of the quorum, not 75% of the body, the appointed body. And maybe I'm not saying it in the proper legal
I
terms.
mean, I know, excuse me, but I know that there are occasions when the entire membership, let's call it, of something it's brought into the mix because they're wanting to have X amount of percentage of the total membership. And I'm thinking of one right off to like a country club.
Right.
They want, for you to make a bylaw change, you have to have
Supermajority.
a supermajority
Yeah.
of everybody, but not the people that are present at a meeting. I understand that concept. I don't, and, Mr. Navarro, I don't understand why we are taking up that, why do we include this if we're not going to include alternates? Because alternates, to me, the only reason an alternate exists is that you will always have a quorum
And a full board.
and a full board. You'll always have a full board.
Can I speak, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman? Do we have quorum today?
Yes,
Yes, we
sir. Right, today, yes.
So
Under
how-
the
how many-
existing rules.
How many members do we have to vote for approval of this amendment now?
Well,
This is more of a.
wait a second, I'm not sure that we have the authority to vote on any amendment. We cannot, as a body, amend the rules
So
which
you're gonna
govern us.
require 100%?
But you're not
vote
approving
today?
it,
Not
you're
approving.
just giving a
Well,
recommendation.
well, my recommendation, again, Mr. Chair, I'm gonna move that we not recommend
I second.
the amendment as written.
So, there's two things that can happen. You make a recommendation, we can take that recommendation, let the council know what the vote was, and also provide comments about alternates.
Well, the only
And
comment I would
give
have,
that to
Mr.
them.
Novato, is that last, we're okay as long as we say a quorum is 7, it has to be 7 members. That's good, 75%. You could say that because we're 9. I'd rather just keep it at 75%, and 75% is gonna be
Mr.
7.
Lavota, I
Now,
think the
secondly-
whole argument has been brought up, and we understand the argument. Now, we already have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion?
If we could just have our.
Well, they wanted a comment, and the last comment would be, Mr. Chair, change the last sentence to, again, be 75% of the concurring votes of the board.
In other words, I would agree with that, excuse me, it's not part of the motion, but I would agree to that or to the existing ordinance being changed to include alternates. One or the other. Now, truly, honestly, I think we're a city that's growing, and maybe we do need to look at alternates, but I do think that we have had enough people here at any given meeting to make a valid decision. So I personally would like to see it change to where it's 75% of the members present at the meeting, present at that meeting. Now, go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I don't think that squares us with state law. I think the change that we're making here is to be in compliance with state law, and it's reflected by all if you see the comparisons up there, I mean, El Paso is doing the exact same thing. And kind of the change behind trying to get everybody to this, additional 75% is to make it harder to get variances and adjustments. And that was a determination by the legislature. And so we're just trying to kind of follow that lead and square ourselves with state law.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Okay, what constitutes a quorum? A quorum is what makes a meeting valid, correct?
Correct.
There's a distinction though. Under TOMA, a quorum would just be a simple majority, right? Okay, and so that's separate and apart from the Texas Local Government Code regarding the Board of Adjustment. It's not defining a quorum or anything for your meetings, but it is saying to hear a case, you need 75% of the members.
Present.
That to me sounds like quorum.
75% of the members of the board. So whoever's appointed, you need 75% of those persons to
Well,
hear a
maybe
case.
we should get a ruling from the Attorney General then of the state of Texas.
We don't need a ruling
mean-
from the Attorney General, we just need to follow state law. It's very simple. There's no confusion about what a quorum is. It's 75% of the board, period. And there's no confusion about what a concurring vote needs to get to, 75%, regardless of the quorum, whether it's 7, 8, or 9 in our instance. Now, Mr. Abel's suggestion of alternate members, good. You'll always have a full board. You won't have the issue of what's a quorum or what's a board, because you'll always have a full board.
Well, I
Not a
don't-
bad idea,
I
but
don't
right
dis-
now.
I don't disagree with
Right
that
now,
either.
I think if we're gonna operate as 9 regular members, no alternates, 75% is a quorum, and 75% of that quorum is an affirmative vote.
Well, maybe Mr. Abel can also, understand, like, the Board of Adjustments has come a very long way, in my estimation.
I agree.
There were many times, Mr. Navarro may be aware of it too, to some degree, where we didn't even have quorum. Not even the 5 members were showing up at Board of Adjustments at one time, okay? And it was difficult even to hear a case, because we didn't even have the simple quorum that we could, with 5 members. So, like I say, but once you do have a quorum present, I kind of feel along the lines, based on what I'm looking at right now, that we should be able to get 75% of the quorum that is present, not the membership that's already listed, unless you already have those kind of alternates in place so that you can have the whole 9-member body represented.
That would be my recommendation, is that we take it back to council, and at council say that we would prefer that it be 75% of the members present.
Yes.
Members present.
I think that's actually the.
And to have a valid meeting, maybe we increase the quorum. If it's 9, we have to have 7. Technically, here right now, we would not be able to make that decision, any decision of any kind. But if it's 75% of the members present, and instead of 75% of the members, and I'm gonna throw something out, because let's say we have a person that is habitually absent. Well, technically, that person's vote is being counted because it's 75% of the members. So, his absence is brought into play, and I don't think that's fair. So, I'm gonna go ahead and call the motion, because of the fact that I need to make certain that we have it worded properly to where you're gonna take it to council. So, all those in favor of Mr. Devote's motion to reject, am I correct?
Correct,
Deny, reject.
correct,
The recommendation.
at this point.
Well, yes, in other words, we're not voting on an ordinance, understand that, we're not voting on an ordinance. We are simply making a recommendation whether we agree or disagree with what council is suggesting. So based on that, I think your motion is that we're going to deny what they're putting forth.
Correct.
You're gonna recommend it or not?
Recommend it now.
All those in favor?
That's the full motion, just to recommend it now.
It's actually
Or to not recommend would be a better way.
No,
of
the
putting it.
full,
To not
just the full
recommend.
motion is just to recommend it now.
To reject it as
The
presented.
way that it's recommended now,
Rejected.
it is rejected. Now,
Okay.
having said that, I would like to follow it up and ask you folks to produce in writing and send it to us what we're thinking.
How do
I see him saying no.
Now, because I'm gonna turn around and tell.
I think you just leave it as is. Just do your 9-member board, make sure that a quorum is 75% of those 9 members.
Yeah, I guess-
And
I guess
just
you're right.
leave the state law alone, because 75% of our quorums will be what we need.
Ultimately, we're gonna take this to council, and then legal is going to give council directive.
Right.
And then we'll get their answer.
And I know that you're saying that we would be contrary to state law
Correct.
if we did it that way.
I believe we would be opening up ourselves to a challenge for any adjustments that have been granted that would not meet the state law requirement.
Well, I believe likewise, if you have an applicant who needs 7 out of 7 votes, he's gonna be a shoo-in for an appeal, because we're making it harder on him than anybody else.
No, we'll be making it as the same as all these other cities.
That doesn't make it right.
No,
That doesn't necessarily make it
You're
right.
making it harder than
Well,
state
just,
law.
5 other legal departments agree.
Well, look,
Well, no.
that chart in and of itself doesn't tell us much, because you're not saying that, do they have a statute or an ordinance that has a specific number?
Yeah.
So they
I
don't follow
mean, I
state
have-
law at all? They don't have 75%?
Yeah, and oftentimes they reference,
Well, do they or don't they?
Yes.
Well, okay.
Yes, they follow state law.
All right,
because-
well then how do they have a
obviously-
number if they're following the 75% requirement?
they, in their bylaws, in their municipal codes, in their land development codes, which I have all those identifiers and people that I spoke to with regard to all of these numbers, right? They do have, sometimes they would have 75% of the members, in which case I would follow up with a phone call, and I have that
Okay,
information.
let me ask you a
contact
question then.
information.
Let's look at Austin. 0 alternate members and 11-member board.
Yes,
9 members are necessary for a
Yes.
quorum?
yes,
Isn't that more than 75%?
no,
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 it's not.
3/4.
What is,
I
what,
don't think so.
But what
Let's
you're
do the math.
proposing is that if we're 7 members have to vote in favor or oppose 100%.
okay, that's right.
Is that the proposal?
But you see, that doesn't.
Where is there 100%?
There's not.
They're not, I don't see any.
None of these boards require 100% vote of the members.
Nor do they
But you're
require a
saying
number
we have a
either.
quorum of
Well,
7.
look,
All 7 have to
Order,
vote in
please.
favor,
Order, please.
100%.
That's correct, yes, just like all these other cities.
I think the
Yeah, but
issue,
where in any one of those examples is 100%?
Mr. Montes,
As,
I think it's very clear, it's not 100% of the members present. It's 100% of, in other words, excuse me, the 75% is 75% of the total members.
Even if you're absent.
And right, so,
That cannot be.
and so if the 7 people that are there, they have to all vote
And you have to allow
because
a
the 2
proxy
people
vote,
that are
but they're not
missing,
doing it.
Chair, we're
because the 2
losing our
people,
credibility by counting the people who are not here.
well, I don't disagree with you, but unfortunately,
You cannot have a vote and count people who aren't voting. It's very simple.
How is it, we did some homework, and we called these cities to ask them, because we were questioned and we asked, and they agreed with us. All these cities agreed with the way we're interpreting it, or reading it, or whatever you wanna say. They all agreed.
So a city would agree with you, Mr. Navarro, that if we had a quorum of 8, we'd require 7 votes?
That's what that's telling you.
Okay, Orly, in the
So-
case of,
but
I
what I'm
was
saying-
asking you in the case of Austin,
But
do
to
they have
my
a
surprise-
specific
to
ordinance
my
that says
surprise,
9?
They all agreed. I'm thinking along the lines of what you guys are saying and saying quorum and everything. I said, let's find out, because my first initial reaction was what you're saying is correct. So we said, all right, let's check, because he does bring up a good point. Let's check. We checked in all of them. Plus the attorney that we talked to, plus a municipal, we do trainings with a lawyer, online. We called him to ask and they all agreed with this.
Wait.
They all agreed with the interpretation.
Orly, you haven't
I'm
answered
not
a question
trying to
though.
tell you.
Look at
In the case of in the case of Austin, do they have a specific ordinance that says there's a number instead of 75%?
I
can
could send
read
it to
you-
you,
I
I
can
don't
read
have
you
the
Austin's right
file.
now. I have it pulled
Do they
up.
have a specific number?
Look, here it is. Okay. 6 members constitute a quorum. However, in order to approve a zoning variance or special exception or reverse an administrative decision on appeal, the following rules apply. The affirmative vote of 3/4 of all qualified voting members is required.
Okay, stop.
No. There's another sentence that clarifies it. If all positions have been appointed and no board member is disqualified from voting, the minimum number of votes required is 9 out of 11.
So 6 is a
Oh,
Wait, repeat that sentence
Of the
again?
members present.
Repeat that sentence
No.
again?
If all positions have been appointed and no board member is disqualified from voting,
So, but that sounds like they're all present also, and nobody's disqualified by conflict of interest or some other reason. So they're all voting, that's what it sounds like, they're all voting. That's what it sounds like. Nobody's disqualified from voting, they're all voting, and it's 9. That makes sense. Okay, but if we leave it at 75%, well, read the sentence again, what does it say?
okay, look, for the affirmative vote of 3/4 of all qualified voting members is required. If all
Okay.
positions have been appointed and no board member is disqualified from
Okay, and no
voting,
board members, that sounds like they're all voting.
no, not disqualified from voting.
Well, okay, so they're all voting.
They're not qualified, they're not here, they're absent.
But they're all voting, nobody's disqualified, they're all voting, then 9 votes.
You're reading in the and they're all voting portion of it. If all positions have been appointed, it's referring to all positions of the board. So if the
Yes.
board size changes, that's gonna change your 75% threshold. Square with state law as it's requiring.
then we should never have, what do we need to have quorum? I mean, you need to have 9
Right.
members or you don't have a meeting.
What is the purpose of a
We should have it
quorum?
like that.
Exactly, you could have a quorum and not hear a case.
Yeah, but you're not gonna get, I mean, like, then we shouldn't even have a
But-
quorum,
but-
don't
but
waste my time.
It
I
says
mean-
we can hear a case when we have a quorum.
Yes, if you, yes, no,
That's what he says, it says each case must be heard by at least
Must be heard by
75.
75% of the members.
of the members,
So
correct.
that gives us the authority to hear a case.
You would need 75% to hear a case. In theory, under TOMA, you could have a quorum of just the majority of the board members, but you wouldn't be able to hear a case.
Correct.
So if we had a hearing, or a meeting, something like this, you could do that with a majority,
Correct,
simple
correct,
majority.
correct.
Right.
I agree.
Okay, I'd like to bring forward a point that is on this sheet.
Sure.
The next paragraph, the first sentence says, "The board by majority vote shall adopt rules in accordance with any ordinance adopted under this subchapter and with the approval of the governing body." So our governing body is city council.
Okay.
So if we are adopting a rule that says that we can have 9 and we can have 75%, it requires of the people present at a meeting, I think we're okay. I really honestly do, because under this subchapter and with the approval of the governing body, we can adopt rules in accordance with any ordinance adopted under this subchapter. I
Correct.
think that's a key right there.
This is telling you that you need council approval for any bylaws or changes that you would like to make. So,
Well, the ordinance,
yes, you would make the recommendation and then it would have to be approved by council.
right. So what we're suggesting, I don't think would be contrary to state law.
I
not
disagree,
at all.
but, I mean,
No,
it's
not
your
at all.
recommendation, so y'all are free to recommend to council whatever you like.
Well, I think we've already voted, and all I'm asking is that you carry forth our thoughts.
So we have
That
a video.
either we're gonna adopt 75% of the people present, and we need 7 of the 9 to be able to discuss anything, or we're gonna have, if we're gonna go the other route that you're suggesting, then we have to have alternates, to where we'll always have a full board,
Yes.
all right? Is there anything else we need to discuss? We've already, and I use the word voted. We voted, but we voted on our recommendation.
That's correct.
All right, anything else? If nothing else, meeting adjourned.